Welcome, everyone, to episode 115 of Greg's podcast. This episode is about as real time as you possibly can get. I'm recording this on Sunday, February 6th at 9:23 a.m. And historically, I release my podcast at noon on Sundays. So between now and noon, I need to not only record this, but also edit it, export it, upload it, and have it ready for you. But I'm up for the challenge. Not necessarily a challenge that I wanted to take on, but Friday, my day I typically record these. I come down at some point. It's nice and peaceful here, and I sit down and I say what's on my mind. But this week we ended up having a remote day on Friday because it was like a snow day that apparently don't exist anymore. So the school now, instead of you not having anything to do on a snow day, it's a day where everyone has Chromebooks and technology, so now you just do school remote, which is good because you don't have to make that day up on like a really nice day later in the year. Like you don't lose a day of your Easter vacation because of a snow makeup day, but it also sucks because it would be really awesome to have a Friday off where it's a snow day. Like those days, I guess, are forgotten. So the greatest thing we have now, I guess, is a 2-hour delay or an early dismissal, which we also had this week. But my day was kind of like spent hanging out with the fam, working on some videos and stuff, and the podcast kind of got pushed back. I guess I went into classic Greg procrastination mode because I always say, why do today what you can do tomorrow? And I don't follow that advice. I give some advice on this podcast. That is one you should never follow. But I also sometimes need the pressure of a deadline to get things done because I could have done this yesterday very easily, and casually had everything done, uploaded it, while I'm doing other stuff. But no, it's 9:25 a.m. now, and here we are recording this. But that's okay because I still have things that I want to talk about. It's not like I'm just going to skip a week on you guys. That's not what we do around here. I want to talk to you about all the things that happened this week. But before I get into that, we have some housekeeping. Is that the word, housekeeping, from last week's episode? First of all, I want to thank everyone for all of the compliments on the new artwork for the podcast. If you haven't checked it out on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify yet, just go there and look at the artwork. Even if you don't plan to listen to this, if you're just going to sit here and watch the YouTube video or listen to the YouTube video, go look at the artwork. It's a really fine piece of art that I made last week in about 2.5 minutes, and I don't see why people wouldn't want to watch this or click on that because it's something. That being said, if there's any amazing artists out there, I didn't get any response last week, because at the very end of the episode, if there's any amazing artists out there who would like to create some type of artwork for this podcast or even my YouTube channel in general, I really need to make like a new like banner and like a logo and stuff, and I've got some ideas for it. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. I'm here, man. I am here. I have an email address. You can hit me up, whatever you need to do. Instagram, give me some good artwork because the world they shouldn't be exposed to what they're seeing on there. Speaking of positive feedback, though, that is actually positive feedback. I got some really nice comments from you guys last week on this episode. I tried to reply to everybody that I could, but the general consensus was that you guys are very excited that the daily vlogs are back. My boring life is something that you guys want to watch, and for that I'm very appreciative. But I'm most appreciative of this one comment that I got. This is from Eric, and this just brightened my entire soul, so I thought I would share it here, and maybe it will brighten yours as well. Eric says, "So glad that your Greg's World videos are back. My son Henry," which, gosh, can I just say that I love that name, Henry? In fact, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but I wanted to name Clark Henry. Because there's so many options with Henry. You can call him Henry, which is a cute name. You can call him Henri, a little fancy. Henri, come over here, let's build a Lego set. You can call him Hank, which is also a great name. There's so much flexibility with the name Henry. Cody shut that down. So we came up with Clark, which she's a Superman fan, and it was between Clark and Kal-El. Which, thank God for Clark that we went with Clark, and I love the name. Plus, I had a friend named Clark back in elementary school, and he was just a classy fella. And there's so many names that come up that it's like, oh, I love that name, but I knew a person by that name, and they were terrible or whatever. Or there's somebody else named that, but Clark is just like Clark is Clark Kent, right? Everybody loves Superman, so that's why he's Clark. I guess we could have, if we're more like in the DC world, I guess we could have gone with Bruce as well. Bruce Wayne. That would have been a great full name. I'm guarantee you there's kids named that. I don't know if I'd want to go that far. But anyways, let's get back to Eric's comment here. Love your son's name. It could have been. It says, my son Henry started watching your videos when you and Clark were big on Thomas, but we've continued ever since. He loves watching Clark, but we've grown attached to your whole family. That sounds strange, but it is much like connecting with a friend. I work from home and live a boring life, as you say you do, so I find it refreshing to see your day-to-day. We check in for videos Saturday morning. I love this part. We check in for videos Saturday morning over breakfast and coffee, and I'll listen to Greg's podcast as I work during the week. My dog, hilariously, even reacts to Roxy being on the TV screen and will try to get her. Try to get to her. It's absolutely refreshing watching a dedicated, loving father and husband who is just humble and honest in who he is. Keep it up, and know that we appreciate what you do and would miss it, even the mundane. That's from Trisha, Eric, and Henry, or Henri as I like to call him. Oh my God. How can you not make videos when somebody is sitting down Saturday morning at breakfast and looking forward to watching them? I have to. Like, I literally, Eric, if you're listening to this, which you probably are during your boring week as I'm living my boring week, I pictured you this week sitting down with your family, getting ready to watch these videos. And I don't know how many people exist in the world that are doing this too. I just heard from you. But that made me just so darn happy to know that there's somebody out there doing that I'm not going to get emotional. I don't do that on this podcast. But I was like, dude, I'm going to put something out for these guys. And sometimes it's just recording. And sometimes I'm just like, gosh, do you really want to see me do the same thing over and over again? Wintertime is tough. We're not doing much of anything, as you could probably tell. But life is sometimes just like enjoying the moments and appreciating it when you're in it. And that's the topic of this week's episode. I want to talk about the joy of sharing experiences with your kid, whether he's named Clark or Henri. I want to talk about how awesome that is to share these experiences, and I want to give you some examples from this week, specifically one that happened shortly after Missing Pieces, or it's going to be a tough transition here, Greg's podcast, Gregcast, whatever the heck we're calling this, just my life in general. After the episode came out last week, Clark and I were in the office he was working on the Lego Stormtrooper helmet. I don't remember what I was working on because that became the focus of everything, but I had the AFC Championship game on, which was between the Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals. I mentioned in last week's episode that I've been getting back into watching NFL. I used to watch sports pretty heartily back in the day, but then I kind of got out of it. I was thinking, like, what is this accomplishing in my life? But then I got back into it in the NFL playoffs. I watched this amazing week of football every game was remarkable. And it was the AFC Championship game, and I was like, hey, I'm going to watch this. Let's keep it going. Let's see what happens. And my gosh, it was another super exciting game. I've never been more excited to watch football in my life. And I don't have any stake in it. I don't have any I don't even know what the phrase is. Something in the game. Any skin in the game, I guess is what it is. We're coming up with new phrases here. But it was just fun watching two teams compete and knowing that it's life or death. You win, you continue. You lose, you go home. Clark is sitting there building. I'm watching, and I'm getting a little excited, It's going back and forth, and Clark's starting to get interested in it. And I start explaining to him how football works and what the teams are trying to do, and what happens on this play. If this doesn't happen, this is going to happen. It could go into overtime. It did, and Clark was super into it, and it was one of those moments, as he became a Bengals fan, by the way. He's totally a bandwagon jumper. If any Chiefs fans are watching this, and I know there's at least one, I'm sorry, Clark man just became a Bengals fan this past weekend. It was one of those moments for me as a father that I just want to remember forever. And I can because I recorded some video of it. It was of Clark building the Stormtrooper helmet. But the experience that I had with that, where it was me and my boy working on a hobby that we enjoy together, and him accomplishing something incredible, that he was building an 18 plus Lego set, 18 years old, a very difficult one that I didn't have much confidence in him just even a few months ago building. He built that bad boy while we enjoyed watching this game. We're having fun. We're joking while we're doing it. And it was just oh my gosh, this is what life is all about. I'm not going to get emotional. Gosh, this is what life is all about. It's not about the big exciting things. Sure, we can take a trip to Disney. Preview of what's to come. But you can also just be in your office watching a football game and building a Lego set with your boy and just having this experience together. And it's remarkable. And we had a whole bunch of that this week. I've been thinking about this. Beyond thinking about Eric and Henry sitting there watching our video on a Saturday morning, I've been thinking about it just absorbing all of this, because I know all of this is just existing right now, and it's just existing for me. And I try to share all of this and share as much as I can. And I think a lot of it comes through in the videos, and I'm trying to do as much of that as I can without boring you to tears. If you want to see me every single day open up the chicken coop and welcome my turkey lurks out. And there's probably somebody out there who'd be like, Greg, I would literally subscribe to your channel of you talking to your chickens. Because there's something for everybody here. And that's something that I take away from Eric's comment as well. Eric, you inspired this entire episode, actually. You can find something for a reason. I think many people have found our channel because of the Thomas stuff, or because of certain places we've gone or things that we've done. And maybe oftentimes it's the kids that find us. It's like, oh, my kid loves Thomas. But then as the kid's watching, maybe the parent's listening in, maybe the parent's doing something else, maybe they're sitting there watching with them, and they see something that's maybe more than what you would typically see on a channel that's dedicated to a kid's hobby or a toy or a character. And you're like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, I think about Clark, and if he was watching like some of the stuff he's watched in the past, I'm just like, oh God, no. But if I saw something where it was like a kid and a dad, and the dad was acting normal and they weren't trying to sell you anything, and it was just like people living their lives authentically, I'd be like, wow, this is really cool. And what you talk about there, you said it sounds strange, much like connecting with a friend. It's not strange at all. That's why I fell in love with vlogging. I used to watch the OG vloggers from back in the day, like the Charles Trippy and Shay Tards, and those guys who would be doing these daily vlogs, and you really did feel like you were part of their life experience. You felt like you were part of their family. You knew their names, you knew their kids, you knew all of this stuff about them, or as much as they were willing to share, But it really does feel like you have this connection. And I find that now with channels, when I find a channel that's being authentic and they're not trying to like hype you with stuff and sponsoring all this stuff, and doing all this craziness, and it's just like normal people doing normal things. I know that's not like going to blow up and be crazy with YouTube and stuff. Like, it's not like a Mr. Beast type situation, but it is like what I have to share. And that's my story. This is my video time capsule. And that to me is really important to share. And the fact that multiple generations of people, I think about this sometimes, multiple generations of people can sit down and enjoy the same content, but for different reasons, is remarkable. Like, I guarantee you, like, the structure of our videos these days when Clark's in school is Clark and I, we're together in the morning, and I'm sure the kids are interested in that. Then maybe Eric steps in during the day when I'm doing my thing, and he's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm doing work too. And then like the kids come back at the end of the video when Clark comes back. It's fun. It's interesting. I don't know if I'm I'm serving any one audience very well. Like, I'd probably be better if I just went in on one of those two areas. But that's not what this is about. This isn't focusing on any one person in particular. And I think it's an honor that anyone finds their stuff and is fascinated enough not only to listen to a podcast like this, for example, but also to tune in and watch any of our videos, honestly. But I was talking about experiences that I had this week, and sharing experiences with the kid, or seeing the world through your son or daughter's eyes. And we did something this week that was, I had that experience yet again. Like, this happened more than once with me. It wasn't just the football night. It was also when Clark and I watched the movie E.T. together. It was a movie that I remember as a kid. I don't remember it too well. Like, it wasn't one of the ones that I watched hundreds of times in a row. But I was like, Clark's really going to love this. I think he's going to have such an attachment to E.T. So we started watching it. And while we're watching this movie, I started watching him. And when E.T. was revealed, his eyes got so big, and he was just taken back by it. And there was parts that he thought was funny, like the dog chasing E.T. Can I spoil the movie E.T.? Can I? Are we outside the limitations of spoilers here? If you haven't seen E.T., it's a great movie. We watched on Amazon Prime. We had to rent it because it's not streamable, but it was $1.99 to stream. It was like half off, but it was fun to watch. And I love seeing movies from like the 80s. I feel like 80s had the best movies, and I love that time period. It just seems like everything's so innocent then, and it was really fun seeing him get attached to E.T. and like seeing how good that movie still looks. Like, I think about like Star Wars Episode 1, and you have Jar Jar, who they were like, ooh, let's use these fancy new computer graphics. It's going to be amazing. Look at that today, and look at E.T., who was like an actual model that they used. So much better. And maybe we should go back before that. I'm sure maybe even today, like as amazing as the movies look today that we watch, maybe someday we'll go back and be like, man, that looks terrible. Oh, shoot, I can't talk about this. I was going to talk about something else we watched. We watched the Book of Boba Fett, and it was going to be kind of along those lines as well, talking about technology and how it makes things realistic. But I don't want to spoil that for anybody. If you have Disney Plus, which in my opinion is the best value in entertainment right now, before they leave the customer acquisition phase and go into the Netflix model where they start raising the price by $1 every single year, watch Book of Boba Fett. Our family loves it, and I think you will as well. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, there's some good stories there, especially in The Mandalorian, which is the season before this one. Go back and watch that. So fantastic. But I won't say anything about it because I don't want to ruin something for someone that hasn't seen it. But they're doing some really great stuff with technology in there as well. In addition to sharing those experiences with Clark, not only the football, but like the E.T. thing was great. We watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids last night, which he was into that as well. Like all these old movies from my childhood, he's experiencing those, and that's fun to like I think I said earlier, like seeing the world through your kids' eyes, especially when they're like wide open like this and they're mesmerized by seeing this alien come out of a tool shed or whatever. It's fun. But we also did some streaming this week on our Lego channel, and for me that's one of my favorite things to do. Like I love live streaming. This, like, a live stream is basically this, but I'm engaging with the audience and usually working on a little something too. Although I did come up with a series title this week that maybe you guys can give me some feedback on. It's called Shooting the Brick. It's kind of like shooting the breeze or shooting the Henry, don't cover your ears. Shooting the, and I was like, shooting the brick. It's just where I sit down and we chat about things, because that's some of the fun of doing live streams, which I thought about doing live streams here on Greg's World. I haven't done it in a very long time. I don't know what we would do, because like the Lego thing gives us a base, right? It gives us something to work off of. And it's like, okay, I'm building a set, but really what it is we're having this conversation. And Clark and I do that together, and I feel like we're a good team. Like he sits right here in this chair, and I sit here, and we build sets and we talk about Lego stuff. It's like what Missing Pieces was. If you are an old listener, like an OG listener, it's like that. It's all the Lego talk that you could want in your life. This is like behind the scenes stuff, I guess. But I enjoy that thoroughly. I like doing that with Clark, man, and I've been having a lot of fun live streaming lately. I find that just doing it in short bursts and not going overboard with it, like so many things in my life, because I'm a guy that is like an all or nothing. I'm all in or I'm all out, and sometimes I can be all in one week and then all out the next because I get myself burnt out on stuff. But I have an addictive personality, and when I decide to do something, I can't just be like, hey, I'm going to just do that a little bit. I'm like, I'm going to do that a whole lot. That's why I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't have any like vices like gambling, anything like that, because I know if I just started it. And I've seen this in my life of making YouTube videos or live streaming or whatever. I tend to get a little obsessed with it. It's like an obsessive personality, I guess. I don't know if it'd be addictive or obsessive. I guess I need someone to give me like a, what is the word? Someone knows the word now. I don't want to say an observation, a diagnosis. Thank you. I know you were like trying to say it. I feel so bad for people when you're listening to something like this. And obviously I don't really have a script here. I have like some bullet points. But when you're speaking off the cuff and then there's a word that you're trying to think of, or like a phrase like earlier, like skin in the game, and you know that there's people out there that are watching or listening and they're like, it's this, Greg, it's this diagnosis. And you can't get to me. We can't connect as closely as we could. I can still read your comments, of course, but we can't connect in a way that is like real time, which is why I think live streaming would be kind of cool. I was thinking about just doing like a secret stream, maybe like every once in a while on Greg's World, and then just like deleting it. Which, speaking of that, I kind of want to take this to the next topic. This is a perfect segue to a video that I watched this week. Not something I ordinarily watch, but it kind of like came up. It was kind of like a recommendation. It said, is live streaming killing your channel, or is live streaming bad for your channel, hurting your channel? Substitute those words in there. But it was this guy that's like I guess a YouTube expert. He had like an hour-long video where he was giving examples of how live streaming has negatively impacted these specific YouTube channels and how it can possibly work. And it turns out I've been doing something that I shouldn't be doing for a very long time. And that is, when you live stream, like I mentioned to make these Lego streams, leaving them on your channel. And this is going to be like some behind the scenes YouTube stuff, so I don't know how interested you're going to be in this, but I think it's an interesting topic because it is going to kind of reflect on this channel as well. If you leave that stream up, it can very negatively affect you. Like basically what this guy was saying is that regular videos, not videos like this, but just like regular videos, that helps grow your YouTube channel. YouTube recommends those videos. People watch them. You can be a new viewer and watch it and be like, oh, that was really cool. I want to see more stuff that this person does, so I'm going to subscribe. Live streams aren't that. Live streams are like a way to connect with your audience. And this sort of is as well. Like, not many new people find this podcast and are like, as their first video. Maybe you watch other stuff and you're like, oh, what's this thing? I'll click on that. But live streams are like for connecting with your audience, and I guess for income generation, like because people super chat and donate. Same thing for Twitch, for example. But where you go wrong, and where I've gone wrong in the past, at least in some instances, at least since May when I started putting live streams on my Lego channel, my main channel, is that if you leave those up, that can negatively affect your YouTube channel's performance, because YouTube looks at things like click-through rate, which is the number of people that see a video pop up. So like if you see the thumbnail for this video, for example, and you click it because you want to watch it, that's good, right? YouTube's like, okay, this is one that people are liking. If lots of people look at that thumbnail and they scroll past it, especially if it's a live stream, because one thing is about YouTube is that not many people want to see or enjoy live streams when they're live. That becomes even more so when they're no longer live, because you lose the whole purpose of that stream, right? So you have a low click-through rate on these streams that have already been uploaded. And then the view duration is another thing. So if you make a 10-minute video and people watch 9.5 minutes of it, that's an indicator to YouTube that this is a really darn good video. And we're going to put this out to all kinds of people because people are loving this. If you make a 2-hour live stream and people watch 5 minutes of it, that's really low. So that's an indicator to YouTube that this sucks. This is really bad. So when you have these live streams lurking on your channel and they're looking like a regular video of sorts that is a really long video that no one's watching and not many people are watching through, that can negatively affect you. So the recommendation was to take those videos off of your channel. After they're no longer live, you make them private. In my case, what I decided to do this week is make them for members only. I have memberships turned on my Lego channel, which is really cool because that's like where my community has been historically. And the people are able to join a Discord and all this great stuff, which I'm not hyping up here, but I'm just saying that's a thing. So what I've been doing with all of my memberships, or with all of the live streams as of late after watching this, is I'll make them members only after. So it's like a cool perk for being a member because you can go back and watch it, but it's not hurting the channel when it's no longer live. And to be honest, if you weren't there during the stream, unless you had a scheduling conflict, you're probably not going to watch it later, even though I have heard from some people that do. That being said, I told you that this would kind of flow into this channel a little bit as well, and it does, because these podcasts are kind of in the same boat. This is something that not the most of the audience that's watching Greg's World, whoever that audience is, whether it's Henry or Eric, people of different ages, they don't necessarily want to see a guy sit down for 30 minutes and talk about their week. That's not the YouTube way. YouTube isn't like short form content like TikTok. It's not long form content like Twitch, where you're streaming for 6 hours playing a video game. It's right in the middle with like a very solid edited like 10-minute video is like ideal, right? It may be 8 to 15 minutes. That's what people want to watch, and they want it to be like entertaining, engaging, informational, whatever. This, I don't know if it falls into any of those categories, and as such, because it's not what my audience necessarily wanted, more so here, like they want it more here than on Brickatech. Brickatech was a disaster with this, and I did it for 110 episodes. But this podcast doesn't get the click-through rate that my other videos do, obviously. This podcast doesn't get the watch time. Like I looked back, and people will watch this podcast about as long as they'll watch maybe a 10-minute regular video. Because what's happening, I think, is this video is getting popped up into people's recommendations or whatever, or maybe the next video plays, and then it goes from like me and Clark like riding a water slide or something like that to me sitting here talking about my week. And then people are like, oh, no. And they click off immediately. So while someone may watch this for the full like 30 minutes that the show goes for as of late, one person's watching it for like 1 second. And then that's a 15-minute average, right? And then that starts going down. But, and like it's tempted me, like this week I definitely had some thoughts of being like, well, maybe I should just make this audio only. Just put it out in the podcasting world and it exists in that place. That way it doesn't hurt my channel. But then I thought, that's going to really limit the number of people that can watch it. And I do think people like the video part of this, because I started watching a podcast last night that I've always listened to audio-wise. But it was so nice seeing, it's a husband and wife talking about like parenting and stuff. And it was so nice seeing the two of them like sitting there, like looking at each other and talking, and like they were doing other things as well, kind of like behind the scenes, and it was neat seeing that. So I do like that. And I think what I'm going to do, and this is the advice I've always given myself, is to stay the course. Even if what you're doing right now isn't necessarily what your audience wants, or is what they've historically been interested in, you got to follow your path. You got to stay on the thing that you want to do and follow your dreams, because the audience that you seek will find you. There's going to be, trust me on this, it may not seem believable now, but there's a whole group of people out there that would love to listen to Greg's podcast. They just don't know about it yet. And those people will start building, and they will start coming. And there may be a day where Greg's podcast is the most popular thing on this channel. And it's going to be wild. I'll never know that this little clip existed, but I hope someday somebody comes back to episode 115 and they clip this for me so I can show it in episode 500 when I'm, geez, how old would I be? That'd be like 10 years from now. I'll be nearly 50-year-old Greg. And Greg's podcast will be like the Joe Rogan experience or whatever, only without all the drama. Be a top Apple podcast with that crazy artwork that I have. And it will be the most popular thing. It'll be the thing that people connected with me over. And that's, I think, the most important thing. This helps us. This is like a definite, like, behind the scenes. This is like the director's commentary, basically. I just think it's awesome. I love podcasts that are like this. I love, and they don't exist. I wish there was a category for personal journals in like the Apple directory. But this isn't something that people commonly do, just like vlogging isn't something people commonly do. It's, people are there for like murder mysteries and sports talk. And I did have a person request that I start a sports podcast, by the way, just because I started watching NFL. Maybe someday, you never know. But I would love to find more people that do exactly this, where I could just sit in and listen to their day. I know Cliff Ravenscraft, one of my mentors. He doesn't know that he's a mentor, but he is of mine. He used to do a thing called Pursuing a Balanced Life, which is basically my life in a nutshell. But he would talk about all his week and his life and his kids and his wife. And he even had a podcast with his wife called Family from the Heart that they no longer do. And I just loved it. I don't care about learning things or being entertained. I just want to hear like what's going on in your life, man. We have this connection, right? Like Eric and I have this connection now. And I just want to know, like, what's new? What are you thinking about? What happened to you this week? You watched a football game with your kid. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, you watched E.T. Fantastic film. Like, I want to live that life with you. It's not strange. It's not weird. So what I've decided is, ultimately, this stays exactly the way it is. But to entice people into potentially clicking it, maybe I can win you over in those first few seconds somehow. Every thumbnail isn't just going to be me sitting here like this, because I think that looks terrible in the feed. Like, it's like a cool, fun video, Greg sitting at his desk, fun video, Greg sitting at his desk, which is reality. But what I'm going to do is try to take a photo from that week that I take with my phone or whatever. And that's going to be the thumbnail, something that I wanted to capture from that week, like another little memory. And the title isn't going to have the words like podcast in it or the episode number. It's just going to be whatever the title is. And my hope is that maybe someone, it's a little clickbaity, I suppose, but not overly. It's going to be something that I talk about this week, hopefully, if I remember to take the photos, which is encouragement for me to take photos because I'm a video guy by heart. Maybe I can just take a little screenshot out of that. But I think it could work. And I'm not really concerned if it doesn't work, because this is where my heart is. This is what I want to do. And it's an honor that you are here with me. If you made it this deep, if you're somebody that made it past 3 minutes of watching this somehow, you beat the average, and I appreciate you being here. I want to wrap this up though. We're right at the 30-minute mark now. Not that I have a limit. These could go for hours potentially, but my life is boring, Eric. It's boring, man. Let's talk about Greg's Fitness. Let's talk about that. Oh, I also want to talk about something else I'll be bringing back, but maybe I'll save that for next week, because I might actually, there's going to be a whole segment next week where I talk about this. So build the hype for episode 116. Things I've enjoyed this week and my fitness journey. I've been enjoying Forza. I've been putting the T in there that I always forget because it's not in the word. Forza Motorsport, Forza Horizon 5. I think they took the word motorsport out. It's a racing game. I've been having so much fun with that. I started playing it this week on Greg's Arcade. It's so good. It's kind of addicting. It's like a racing game. I love racing. I love cars. In fact, this week, I thought Greg's Fitness was next, but we're going to push that just a little bit back. We're going to go a little longer. I've been loving the game. I love racing. It's an open world game basically where you do these activities on a map, and then every time you do one, like 2 new things open up, and then there's like leveling up. So it's like an RPG, but then there's like this wheel that spins and you can win money and you can win cars. So it gets addicting for that. I just noticed our white balance is all over the place in this episode too. I go from being warm to really cool. Can we trigger it? Can we trigger it? I don't know. But the game has been great, and I've been getting into racing and watching racing videos on YouTube, like video game racing. And this week I was inspired to buy a simulation racing steering wheel and pedal set. It's called a Logitech G29. Works on PC and on PlayStation, because I found out that Gran Turismo 7, one of my favorite games, when I bought a PlayStation 2, first game I got was Gran Turismo 3. That was the game that I bought. I was like, how cool would this be to do some simulation racing? It kind of got inspired when I got into the VR situation, and I watched a guy like put the Oculus on, and he was racing with a wheel and shifter and pedals and stuff. But he was like, what you saw was like you were inside the car, and I was like, oh my God, I want to experience that. So I may end up doing some of that, but mostly I just want to get this just to experiment with. And I found a deal on Amazon. This setup usually for the wheel and the pedals is usually $350, and the shifter, you're shifting through the gears. In fact, I have it down here beside me. If you're watching this, here's the shifter. I showed it on my gaming channel, Greg's Arcade. Go subscribe, support us over there. I love putting content out. It was a great deal. It was usually like a $400 and some value. I got it for just over $300. They sent me the shifter. I'm still waiting on the wheel. These things are back ordered like crazy. And I thought once Gran Turismo 7 comes out, you're not going to be able to find these things. So I'm excited to get into that. I might be doing some simulation racing, and it's just wild that people are really into the simulation stuff on my channel. Minecraft is always the number one thing that people want to watch, obviously. But I've been doing this American Truck Simulator. In fact, I did an episode yesterday, and people are loving the absolute heck out of it. To me, I bought it because I knew I'd enjoy it. It's just driving a rig, taking jobs, hauling stuff to certain locations, dropping it off, maybe back in the truck in, getting XP, getting money, trying to buy your own truck, which is what I'm working towards. You can hire drivers, you can get garages. It's a lot of fun, and I thought when I bought the game, I was like, nobody's going to want to watch me play this. But just like Greg's World in my boring days, I was surprised when people liked watching me drive these trucks, because it's like we're having conversations as we're driving, and it's just a blast. So I did some of that yesterday, and I can even use the wheel with that as well. So it'll be fun to see. If I get really into it, I'm going to get like a whole cockpit where like the wheel's mounted on there and the pedals are in there and all this stuff. It has like a racing seat. But for now, I'm just going to mount it to my desk here. And then we'll move to that level when we see fit. But, Greg's Arcade is literally becoming an arcade with all this VR stuff and peripherals and all that. And I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So if you'd like to come over there and watch us live stream, or just watch little highlight videos, I have that up. It's linked down below. That's my big thing that I'm trying to grow right now. We're very close. Well, I say very close, but we're like 700 subscribers away from hitting 10,000 subscribers, which is wild. To have that would be is that my 4th channel with 10,000 subscribers? You can do it once, you do it again. It's just like the real world. The rich just keep getting richer, right? You crack that 1,000 mark. It's easy to do it the second time. It's easier again. What I like is to know that it's not just a fluke. It's not just luck. It's dedication, hard work, and a little bit of advertising on your podcast, a little bit of hype. But I'm having just a heck of a lot of fun with that. So that's been great. I'm actually playing some Forza this afternoon with my nephew who downloaded it. And that's going to be a good time. So that's going to be my afternoon here on Sunday. But I want to wrap this up with my fitness journey and my win of the week, I guess. I guess my win of the week ultimately was all these experiences with Clark. But next week is going to be a big win, because this week wasn't such a win in terms of fitness. I'm having some issues here every other week. This week I only went down 0.2 pounds. I went down 179.4 to 179.2. It was a week of like fluctuating. I'm like, why is this happening? But what I've experienced is every time I have a weak week, the next week is a dominating one. And that's what I'm hoping for next week. I did check though. My loss for the last 30 days is at 5.6 pounds, which is pretty decent to lose 5 pounds. I'm now under 20 pounds that I want to lose ultimately. So if I stay at the same pace, which hasn't been that hard to maintain, and in fact, I think I could go even further in this, I'm looking at 4 months, 120 days of my life to basically erase years of just being lax, right? And I've already done that. Like I've seen like that 5.6 pounds that I erased so far, that took care of like the fourth quarter of 2021. I got out of hand, dude. I mentioned before, I was snacking. I was drinking sodas like it was going out of style. Addictive personality. I was watching TV. I'd be eating pretzels. I'd be eating chips. I liked Christmas cookies. No more. No more. So drinking Zevia. This is my worst drink that I drink. And it's 0 calories, made with the stevia plant. Grape Zevia is so good. Thank you for sponsoring the podcast. I wish I'd wear a Zevia shirt if they sent me one. But I think this week's going to be a strong one. I'm going to try to make a big push. Really going to watch everything that I consume, hit that elliptical, and I'd like to see another 2 pounds at least gone by next week. So you'll have to tune in to find out if that happens. I'd like to get myself down to like a 177 mark, which would be great. If I could go further, I mean, ideally, I'd like to lose 5 pounds this week, but we got to be somewhat realistic. But we're still in the right direction. We haven't gone up one time this entire year, like as I'm doing this weekly. I've seen it go up throughout the days, and this week it's just fluctuating. I think I hit like a good low last time. Like I really dominated, and then my body was like, okay, let's chill here for a bit. But I always want to see results, and I'm definitely a person that focuses on goals. If I have a goal, nothing will stop me from achieving it. Nothing. And like, if anything, if I say I'm an obsessed person when it comes to hobbies and things that I do, I get obsessed when it comes to goals. And I think that's a part of why I've been able to accomplish some things in my life, is because there literally is nothing that will stop me from getting what I want. And that's been the tale of my life. So I'm going to turn this over to you if you're watching or listening still. What's that thing in your life that you want to get? Where do you want to go? What's that thing? Start taking steps. Take 0.2 steps this week, just like I did. And you'll take the other 20 at some point. You're just going to start. You're going to get there. I wish you the best in that. And I wish you the best in all things in your life. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's podcast. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed it. Eric, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Hope your week's going well. And of course, we'll see you all in the next episode.